You stand at the window of the Louvre, August 24, 1572. Paris is eerily quiet, yet every alley, every street corner seems to shiver with anticipation. The air carries the scent of damp stone and smoke, tinged with something metallic and sharp, blood, though you cannot yet see it. Shadows stretch unnaturally across cobblestones, twisted by the lanterns flickering in the streets below. And then the bells toll, not for prayers, not for the morning, but as a signal. A warning? Or a command? Outside, the city is a stage for horrors carefully orchestrated by those who know your weakness. Armed mobs surge through the streets, dragging men, women, and children into rivers of blood. You see neighbors turn killers, cries of the innocent drowned by shouts of fury. You are Charles IX, a king of only 22, trembling under a crown heavier than iron. You wield authority you barely understand, and yet tonight, that authority will shape death. You are no longer the boy who once peered from the corridors of the palace. Tonight you are both witness and executioner, manipulated by shadows, fear, and ambition into an act that will echo for centuries. Even as you give orders, a part of you recoils. That part that knows what is monstrous. But manipulation is complete. Fear, ambition, and indecision converge, and your moral compass shatters. The king who ordered his people's death. To understand this night, we must first step back, to the boy behind the crown, shaped by trauma, obsession, and the unyielding grip of his mother. You are 9 years old. The sight of your father, Henry II, pierced through the eye by a lance, his agonized body crumpling before your eyes, has seared itself into your mind. Sleep betrays you, replaced by images of pain, blood, and helplessness. Every laugh, every shadow, every whisper carries a trace of that trauma. 2 years later, your older brother Francis II dies, and the crown falls into your small hands at 10. But the crown is heavier than any child can bear. You are surrounded by scheming nobles, advisors whispering agendas and threats. True power belongs not to you, but to your mother, Catherine de Medici. She is cunning, ruthless, and unrelenting, a presence that suffocates your very sense of self. Every lesson in obedience, diplomacy, and loyalty becomes a chain that tightens around your psyche. You are both her instrument and her prisoner. Your mind wrestles with dependence and resentment, love and fear. Small rebellions flare inside you, small bursts of defiance, but they are quickly snuffed out. Court life is a labyrinth of intrigue. You witness secret negotiations, alliances formed in shadows, and betrayals executed with a smile. You learn that survival requires calculation, not kindness. Yet even as you are molded into a figure of authority, the boy inside you, sensitive, curious, and terrified, remains trapped. A crown heavier than any sword. These early experiences will ripple through your life, creating the fertile ground for manipulation, fear, and eventually, atrocity. France trembles on the edge of civil war. Huguenots, the Protestant minority, grow in influence, challenging the Catholic dominance you were born into. Each courtier, each advisor, is a thread in a vast web of ambition and treachery. Loyalty is rare, deceit is common. You meet Admiral Coligny, a Huguenot with a mind sharp and principles unbending. In him, you glimpse leadership untainted by fear, a vision of what your reign could have been. But Catherine perceives danger. She whispers, pressures, and manipulates you, undermining Coligny's influence. Slowly, your judgments bend under her shadow. You feel the tension in every corner of the court. Murmured accusations, veiled threats, the glint of swords and candlelight. Every decision is a test. Should you assert yourself, or yield to guidance? Should you trust your instincts, or allow your mother's carefully planted fears to guide your hand? The kingdom teeters on the knife's edge, and so do you. When power meets fear, innocence dies. This web of intrigue will culminate in a wedding meant to reconcile, but that instead will ignite a massacre. The wedding of Henry of Navarre, a Protestant prince, and Margaret de Valois, a Catholic princess, promises peace. Paris is festooned with banners, streets echo with laughter, and nobles parade in silk and gold. Thousands of Huguenot leaders arrive, hopeful, unaware of the shadows closing in. Then comes the attempt on Coligny's life. You are shocked, angry, and vow justice. But Catherine and her allies twist your fear into manipulation. They present fabricated evidence, whisper conspiracies, and appeal to your wounded pride. Slowly, inexorably, your moral compass fractures. By nightfall, the decision is made. The Huguenot leadership must die. What should have been a celebration is now a prelude to blood, orchestrated by those who understand your weaknesses better than you do. A celebration turned into a prelude of death. From this moment, the line between king and executioner blurs, and your role as orchestrator of horror begins. The bells toll at 2 a.m., signaling death. Streets once filled with music and laughter are transformed into rivers of terror. Men, women, and children are dragged from homes. You, Charles IX, sees an arquebus, shooting at those attempting to flee. Some say you laugh, a mingling of fear and sadistic pleasure. The massacre, originally targeted, escalates. Pregnant women, children, the elderly fall. Houses are set aflame. The Seine runs red. The city is a theater of calculated horror, sanctioned by your authority, amplified by the frenzy of ordinary citizens. Each hour brings new horrors. Families torn apart, cries echoing from narrow alleyways, the smell of burning flesh mixing with the metallic tang of blood. The city's spirit dies in real time, and you are both witness and instrument. A king becomes an executioner. The chaos does not end in Paris. France itself will descend into flames. Reports arrive from Toulouse, Bordeaux, Lyon. The violence spreads like wildfire. Ordinary citizens, interpreting royal orders as permission, kill neighbors and friends with terrifying efficiency. Innocence becomes a casualty in a war of fear and fanaticism. International outrage grows. England, the German states, even distant courts condemn the carnage. Your reign, once full of promise, is now a cautionary tale. The monarchy trembles under the weight of moral collapse. And still, the rivers of blood flow. You witness the country fracturing, morality bending, and the seeds of long-term distrust planted among communities. The very fabric of France is ripped apart, leaving scars that will linger for generations. When leadership fails, society bleeds. Your internal torment will mirror the destruction of France, as guilt and fear take hold. You cannot sleep. The screams haunt you. Nightmares stalk your waking hours. You bleed inexplicably from pores and ears. Your body reacts to guilt your mind cannot escape. Psychosomatic collapse consumes you. You confess to your physician, Ambrose Père, that you are tormented by what you have done. The king you were meant to be has died. Only a ghost remains, shackled by conscience, fear, and manipulation. You wander the corridors of the Louvre as if haunted by the very spirits of those slain. Every echo of footsteps feels like the march of judgment, every shadow, a reminder of the blood you unleashed. Your mind fractures further. You isolate yourself from court, from your mother, from God. You speak to yourself, muttering apologies no one will hear. The faces of the dead are etched into your vision, appearing in reflections, in dreams, even in silence. Your guilt has become your crown now, and it is far heavier than gold. No crown protects a haunted soul. As your sanity fades, so does your kingdom's strength. The echo of massacre still lingers in the hearts of your people, and what follows next is not peace, but decay. Your body begins to wither as your mind collapses. Blood seeps from your pores, your eyes sink deep into hollow shadows. You are barely 23, yet you look like a man twice your age. The court whispers that you are cursed, that the blood you shed seeks vengeance through your veins. You wander through your chambers, clutching a crucifix, whispering prayers for forgiveness that never seem to reach heaven. You fear sleep, for sleep brings dreams, and dreams bring screams. Ambrose Père records your decline with pity, noting that the King of France is wasting away under the weight of his own guilt. He bleeds, he writes, as if his very soul were escaping through his skin. Catherine still controls the throne, watching her son disintegrate like wax beneath a candle flame. You are no longer king, merely a vessel of torment. In your final moments you whisper, "What have I done?" And the echo of that question becomes your final confession. You die young, alone, and unloved. The bells that once signaled death now toll for you. He bled until there was nothing left to forgive. But your death brought no redemption. France itself would bleed for decades, haunted by your decisions, and by the night you unleashed upon your own people. Centuries pass, yet the blood of St. Bartholomew's Day still stains the memory of France. Historians debate how much blame belongs to you, how much to your mother, how much to fear itself. But guilt cannot be measured by degrees. The massacre stands as a mirror for humanity, of what happens when power is placed in trembling hands. Modern scholars call it psychological regicide, the death of one's moral self long before the body follows. You were not born cruel. You were molded by fear, by manipulation, by a world that demanded obedience over conscience. And in that, your tragedy becomes universal. You remind us that every generation, in its own way, faces a St. Bartholomew's Day, when fear and propaganda can again turn neighbor against neighbor. The lesson echoes beyond the marble halls of the Louvre, beyond France, beyond time itself, that the greatest horror in history is not the act of killing, but the silence of those who allow it. History is not written in ink, but in the blood we refuse to remember. And so the story of Charles IX ends, not as a tale of cruelty alone, but as a haunting reflection of how fear corrupts innocence, how weakness births atrocity. When kings lose their conscience, nations lose their soul. When leaders are ruled by fear, history is ruled by blood. Power without courage is the slowest form of death.